Got it.
All right. So I am now on the line with a Mr. Denny and Miss Sabina, who are a Kizomba Fusion dance duo. You both are based in Gothenburg, Sweden. Is that right?
That's right.
True.
Denny, you are from Sweden, but Sabina, you are from Azerbaijan,
Yes.
which is somewhere near Russia.
Yes, that's
Somewhere
right.
near Russia.
All right, bet. You two started dancing together back in 2019. Denny, you have a history of street dancing, but you were also introduced to Kizomba and Tarraxinha back in '06, so in your early childhood, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and Sabina, you have a history of ballroom as well as voguing. Is that correct?
Ballroom, not the voguing ballroom, but ballroom like a
I don't. Is that a thing? Is there a ballroom vogue? Is that a? I don't think that's a thing.
yeah, but ballroom is a scene, and voguing is like a tiny part of that scene. But that ballroom that I have as a background, it's like sport dances, like 5 Latin and 5 standard dances. So that's what I have. So I'm a little bit careful when I say
when you're dipping your toes in both worlds, you want to be specific. Like, oh, but I'm talking about this now.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't know. I didn't even know voguing was a part of ballroom. So I appreciate the correction. I really do. I told you all this before we started, but I want to thank you both so much for taking time out here to talk to me. I really do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Of
course. So how I normally start this out, I would love to hear from both of you. Well, I've never had a chance to visit Sweden, and I definitely have not had a chance to visit Azerbaijan. I think I said it wrong, but I would love to hear from both of you. What was your childhood like growing up in your both respective places?
Yeah, running around like that is probably what I remember, because my parents, my mom worked a lot, and I got raised by my grandma, but we were pretty much running around, ruining things, fighting. nothing what would you say, like irregular?
Yeah, like the usual, just running around. That's what everybody do.
I understand.
No, but I did love dancing though when I was kid, but I did not like dancing in front of people. So if I was dancing, it would be either with my dad. He was or he is probably now as well a good dancer, but it was either with him or like in the room, and then my mom and the others would sneak in, like just to see what I'm doing, and then I would get very angry. That why are they watching?
That's you.
That's me.
She's just running around in Russia or close to Russia. That's that's her childhood. Yeah, that's good. I mean, I'm born and raised in Sweden, in a suburb outside a city. It was me and 2 brothers. Didn't have a real close connection to our parents, so when you look back at it, it's funny. You notice how you are today because of your childhood. And so I remember when we started meeting, the way that you are not so verbal always, because when you're being brought up and you don't have a close connection to your parents, the one that you do have a close connection to, or hopefully, at least that was the way for me, was with my brothers. But since you're experiencing the exact same thing together, you don't really talk about it. Like, what is there to talk about? Like, oh, yesterday, dude, I was there with you. Why you didn't even talk about it? Like, so it becomes you're there for each other, but you don't really talk about it. So that has been like a way, like you notice later on when you're teaching, when you're in relationships and so on, that how that has influenced you and how you need to verbalize things. And wait, so
do you mean you are verbal or I am verbal?
No, well, you are verbal, but I mean I am now, because I had to learn that shit.
Let me I'm not, I don't know if you mind me asking you, Denny, can you say why you were unable to have a close relationship with your parents?
Yeah, they were not working, and since they were fighting all the time, drinking and being alcoholic, I think that because they were unhappy, it is to give love, you need to have love in some sense. right? And some might disagree. But so if you're not feeling good, it is hard to give something good to someone you care about, in a sense. And I think that was, I think that might have been a big part of it. But I mean, we're good now.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
It's hard to give something you're lacking. So I definitely understand that.
Yeah.
Well, we have something in common regarding that because my parents are also divorced, but I have had strong connection with my mom. So yeah.
No, I understand that. No, I definitely understand that. I definitely want to get into dancing, but I want to ask. Let me ask you this, man.
I went down there. I went deep.
I mean, we're on this subject. We're on this subject, man. So let me ask you this. I want to ask you both. Are you able to look at like the person you are today? Are you able to see how your childhood has influenced, your actions, your decisions, the person who you are today?
For me, it has been a journey. Like I am still discovering things that, oh, wait, can this be connected to that? And then I like reading about like self-improvement type of books or psychology related stuff. And then sometimes you do find like those signs that how things are connected. So I can really like relate, but it is a process. I can't say that I know everything about myself because this has happened because of my childhood. But also, I don't like that you can keep it in as a flag in your hand that, oh, but I have, trauma. I have experienced this and that. Like
you like keep keeping it like an alibi, like, oh, but it's okay because I have this background, so you need to just sympathize with me. I mean, just get over your shit. I mean, at some point, I mean, you got to grow up sometime.
So we do talk we do talk about these things even today, but what was more interesting was that when we started talking, because we weren't dance partners, like we were couple first and then eventually we became dance partners, and like first days that we were talking, we started like talking about these kind of deep topics, if you want to call them, and I was like, why I'm telling this to him, like
because I was like, oh, bring that shit to me, like draw it out. Yeah. No, I mean, sorry.
Yeah. No, but that was it. That you can definitely see some signs from your childhood or the things you have experienced.
Yeah. No, and I think it's important too. Like for me, pretty much the same thing. I think it's one of the important things, especially if you're going to be an inspiration, because at some point when you're out there giving something or teaching a culture, teaching a way of thinking, then there's a percentage of the content that you're giving is what the student are paying for or are wasting their time being there to take in. But the second part is getting, who are you? Like, why should you be teaching me? Like, what is, like, you're an artist and an inspiration, and a part of that is who you are. So your history comes with that part as well. So I think that it being a real good artist, I'm not saying that you have to have had struggles, but if you can relate, people are people. So if you can use that to your advantage in a good way, then I think you're all the better for it. Definitely.
I understand that, man.
This got deep.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you going to that. I'm glad you guys aren't, out kicking puppies or doing anything crazy. I think you guys.
That's true, man.
Yeah, I think you guys turned out okay, man. Let me ask you this, Denny. How I don't know much about Sweden, man. So you have this background in street dancing. When I think of street dancing, are you talking about like hip hop dancing or not even?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays, I mean, if you said hip hop back like 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, maybe a little bit more even. But let's even go back 20 years. Then it was pretty clear what you were talking about. Oh, yeah, doing the wave and then doing like, and then doing a head spin and break dance. But I mean, nowadays, when you say hip hop and street dance, and I understand that it might be a sensitive topic because to some hip hop is like what hip hop was, and then now it's just something else. And I get that part. But when you say hip hop today and street dance, it's so influenced by everything, by jazz, ballet, other cultures, dancehall, Afrobeat, da, 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 da.
Mm.
So now it is that. And that's what I do as well. I've just been introduced by everything that is within the umbrella of street dance.
Okay. So I definitely I've heard a few Swedish rappers. You know, I know how rough and rugged the Swedish people are, man. So please tell me, tell me about your, your background in street dancing. You know, what was that like? Did you like have some friends who did, and that's how you got into it, or how did that come about?
So we moved, me and my twin brother, actually, we moved from the suburb into the city due to relationships, like the family splitting up. And so at that point, like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to get into, because I was playing soccer. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to meet a new team, and then like, oh Lord, a new one. Like, we've been through this already. Like, I don't want to skip that shit. So we're like, okay, you know what? Let's try something new. And nothing happened. Me and my twin, we were always like, we never had a problem, like just having fun at the party, whatever, just having fun. So a couple of classmates at the new school, they were like, at a party, whatever, they're like, yeah, you should start dancing. And the classmate that was saying it, he was dancing jazz. Me and Tony were like, jazz, please. Me? Whatever. I need to do something cool. I was like, no, but there's cool stuff too. I was like, oh, okay, so we can try it out. So we actually tried out. It was just random, just a tip from a classmate, and that's how that journey started. I think it's funny how just random stuff, just like rolling a dice or stumbling upon something, and that.
Well, was this like, elementary, middle school, what, high school, what?
Okay, so no, we were around maybe 16 years old.
Okay, so like high school then for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A late bloomer into the dancing, if you'll say.
I understand that. and so what about you, Sabina? When and how were you first introduced to ballroom? How did that come about?
Yes, it was actually during a university event. We had a student show, and there was like one couple dancing samba, so ballroom samba, and then yeah, I thought it looked really cool, so I started talking with them, and then they invited me to the classes. I started taking classes with them, but it was very interesting. Like, back then it was not different for me because I was grown up in that culture, very Russian influenced. But nowadays when I look back at it, it's really ridiculous how like hard those teaching methods were, because our teacher would call us like dead chicken, are you a monkey, like, or come and step on our toes with his like high heels.
That's Russian love for you.
Tough love. But you were Sabina, you were kind of like a late bloomer though, because I've had ballerinas on my show, and I'm sorry, I'm mixing two different things. I'm thinking about ballerinas and ballroom. I'm so sorry. But there are people who started at such a young age though. So you were
yes. Yes, that's true. I started when I was 19. It's still relatively late, but it is different than, of course, ballet, for example, that even though people still like do ballet like when they are adults, but it is not the same thing. So yeah, it was a tough experience, but it was not tough when it was happening, when I was going through it. I saw it as a challenge more than like being scared. But later on, we built a really good connection with that instructor.
So, the one who's stepping on your toes?
Yeah, the one. But he wouldn't like show that I'm gonna step on your toe. He would like just walk around, and he was a bit diva. Like check everybody, and all of a sudden step on your toes. So you didn't have a chance. Like if you have good instincts, you save your toes. But if not, your toenails.
So I have to ask you both, is that something that you implement in your Kizomba or Tarraxinha classes? Do you, demean your students? You step on their toes at all?
We definitely don't step on their
Okay.
toes.
But okay, so
But
yes,
Danny, he's
continue.
thinking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
don't
I got
worry.
one in. I
About
got
it.
one in.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. No, now I forgot what I'm gonna
I'm
say.
sorry. 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 Okay. No. So for me, I think there is a purpose with the tough love, but of course there is a difference between tough love and tough love. So, and also it depends on who are you to me. Are you working for? Or do we have a gig? Do we have a show? Or is it like a beginner class? Or is it someone that is telling me like, okay, I want you to be hard on me? Then I'm like, okay, then I'm gonna tell you the truth. And but I will. I mean, like, there's a way of doing it that shows you that you care for that person, and there's a way of doing it just to make that person feel small. And of course, that will never happen.
No.
Of course.
Is that like a constructive feedback versus just I
Yeah.
guess negative feedback? Something I understand that. I definitely understand that.
And of course, then it depends on the relationship you have. Just like you have like when I'm talking to a close friend, that demeanor, that type of character that I have, the communication will be different from someone I never met before. So of course, depending on how you're vibing, that will also change the type of how, if can you make a joke? Can you like, sorry.
I understand that. I definitely do. So let me ask you both this then. So you're both growing up, you're getting into dancing and everything. I would love to hear, how were you introduced to Kizomba? And I guess, what was your first, introduction to social dancing? Was it Kizomba or was it something different?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. So I started doing the street dance, and I was living, you can call it in a ghetto part in Gothenburg, Sweden. So, and there's a lot of Cape Verdean that lives here, and so I got to a part. I went to a couple of suburban parties, Cape Verdean suburban parties, and they did this. They called it the chewing gum dance, Tarraxinha, but they call it chewing gum dance. So that was like, you just stood there and just like stood on one side and hugged, because that was how it looked like. And I was like, I just stood there and hugged. I was like, and I coming as from a street dancer background was like, it's all about like performing and looking cool. Doing this, you're just like, what are we even doing? Like, what is this? So that was back in 2006 that this happened. And then from there, it took a while because I forgot that stuff. And then, I mean, when you work with your passion, it's a blessing and a curse, because you get to work with what you love, but it also affects what you love, because I can't choose when I should dance. I have to dance. So after like big productions and stuff, when you've been on stage, it can be like a couple of months where I'm like, I don't even want to listen to music. I just want to get away from that. So in that sense, I was looking in a way to kind of save my love towards dancing. I wanted to I want to find something where I do it just for me. And so I tried salsa, but in salsa it was just like, so you go out and then you ask someone up, and then it feels like you have to give all these like routines to the person. It became like a job. I was like, I'm out dancing for me now, but it feels like a job. Screw this. So I skipped salsa, and then I got introduced to Kizomba again. I was like, yeah, I remember this. And I started like, you could just stand there and just be. And it's good music. And I'm like, okay, this is my thing. And that's how I got into, and it actually saved my street dancing career and the love for street dance as well, because you get that relationship, that contrast of not just work. And then we started working with this. So then I'm screwed again, but that's another story.
And so, Denny, were you the one to introduce Kizomba to Sabina?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We were doing it separately.
Yeah, that's actually how we met. But yeah,
we didn't know each other when we started. No, for me, it was, I got introduced to salsa through Ballroom. I mean, not really introduced, but we knew that, oh, okay, those people are doing salsa, but there was some kind of competition, like Ballroom people didn't want to hang out with salsa people at the beginning.
Of course.
But then because I did Ballroom in Azerbaijan, and then I moved to Norway. I've been living in Norway like many years. Even now, like if somebody asks me, I feel more Norwegian because I have grown up there. I have used all my 20 years there. So then I started. No, I wanted to travel to Cuba, but I had to learn a little bit salsa before going. And we had a cafe that played kizomba, salsa, bachata music. So I was just hanging out there with some friends, danced a little bit salsa, and then I saw kizomba, or they played kizomba, and I was like, wow, like what is this music? And then people were dancing, but they were not dancing like normal. It was a out place, people were making out a little bit. So it got a little bit too intense. And then somebody asked me, actually, you want to dance? And I was like, no, like this is not for me. And then I traveled to Cuba and danced salsa and then got introduced to kizomba. That was funny because like it's so far away.
Okay.
And when I got back, I was like, I want to learn this. And then I
Okay.
started taking classes. And then here we are.
I wanna hear from both of you all. I guess two separate questions. Well, same question. I want to hear from you, Sabina. I want to hear about your beginner stage in salsa. I really want to hear about that. And then Denny, I want to hear about, you say you've been dancing, kizomba for a big portion of your life, man. But tell me about your beginner stage in kizomba. What was it like learning those respective dances? What was that like for you?
You meant my beginner stage in salsa?
Yes,
or
ma'am.
in kizomba?
In salsa. What was it like learning?
Okay, my ex was a salsa instructor, so I did not take direct classes. So I was dancing and learning from him, but I started with kizomba. So I didn't really take salsa classes. Like later on I did, but then I was already into kizomba. I was just learning. But kizomba as a new beginner, I can't say that it was too tough because I did have my ballroom frame, which was helping me a lot. But I did struggle with some moves that, okay, like especially if you're changing direction, I didn't understand that. Like if you're doing a virgula, for example, that was I remember I was struggling with that. But it wasn't anything specific that I remember. I think it got very, like, I developed pretty fast in that. But I am thankful to my ballroom background for that.
I mean, for me in the starting stage, coming from street dance and being mindful of that this comes from a culture, this has a meaning. What does this mean? Why do you do this? And why do you do that? I think that was one of the biggest issues I had in the beginning, because a lot of people don't actually know why things happen, why they are as they are. So for me, for things to make sense, like I don't just want a step. Don't tell me like, oh, you don't do it like that. Why? Why don't you do it like that? Or why do you do it like this? So I was searching a lot for these questions, and not a lot of people had the knowledge. I mean, and I get it, because it's not easy, because if you're going to get the real answers, you have to go to some true sources and start digging deep. And I mean, in the beginning, when you're beginning, you don't know where to look for those. So I think that was one of the biggest issue I had in the beginning, that I wish that I could get quicker. And it has also influenced the way that we teach. Okay, what are the key questions? Because answers change all the time. The questions stays true. So in that sense, I think that has been one of the things that I remember from being a beginner, especially in the kizomba scene. Like, okay, the questions, where can I get those answers, and who can I ask those questions to, if not the teacher that I'm taking classes from?
I'm curious, how, this is like a multifaceted question. I'm curious, what is the dancing scene like in Sweden, as well as, what is the quality level of kizomba instructors? Maybe we'll say back in the day, back in 2010. Was social dancing popular? Was kizomba popular? Was there good quality teachers, 12 years ago?
In Sweden, I would say for being since this Sweden is not the origin, and since I mean, I will not say that internet didn't exist, that YouTube didn't exist, because it did, but it wasn't as full-fledged back in 2010 as it is now. Now you can like search on something and you will find it. Maybe you will find too much of it. That's one thing. But back then, I mean, it wasn't the case, and it wasn't in people's system to just YouTube and find an answer. So then, I mean, I can't critique it too much, because the means, the platforms weren't there, weren't at that level. But I will say that Kizomba in Sweden it had a good peak around from 2010 till
17.
Some there 7 years, where people in Sweden, because we had a lot of styles, we had a lot of other dance styles as well, and that influences at least you as a social dancer. And so then you can quickly migrate, and we had a lot of Cape Verdeans and so on. So there was a peak there where I will actually say that it was pretty high. And of course, we're talking about as a social dancer, whether as a teacher, because then there's so many other factors that comes into play.
And it was new for Sweden as well.
Yeah.
So it took some time that teachers also start digging up and finding answers to certain questions. But it definitely had its peak. Even in Norway, same period of time, 2015, 16, 17, I would say that was the like really.
So even on a European level, Sweden was considered pretty good back then, especially followers. Followers during that period was considered good. Leaders,
I think Sweden had good leaders.
Yeah.
Like if I have to compare it, for example, with Norway, Sweden had better, bigger community, not better maybe, but bigger community and more updated maybe.
I'm curious. I'll say this. What instructor, had the biggest impact on, the dancers who you are today, as far as in reference to Kizomba? And is it a local instructor, or just an online instructor?
For me, I would say Paula and Ricardo.
Now or back then?
Not back then, because back then I was taking only local classes, and then we traveled. We also, like even today, we travel to Portugal to take private classes to learn the culture itself. Like it's never enough, there are so much you can learn. But even we have taken classes with Paulo Ricardo, Pechu, but I would say Paulo Ricardo for me.
I mean, that's been at least on later part of the journey. For me, early days, Chris Labra and Denise Brito was one of the local ones that I was like, okay, that had proper information that you could actually ask questions. Not to say that there weren't any other, there were, but the ones that I connected to, like, okay, so.
Yeah, like in Norway, we had a local scene, small scene, but I did start both Kizomba and Urban Kids at the same time. But Kizomba instructor, it wasn't really easy to follow or clear. So I went to the Urban Kids group, and I started with Urban Kids, let's say, and that was Daniel. I started with Daniel Zarkovsky from Oslo, and then we partnered up later on for several years, and even opened our own school in Oslo, Fever Dance Oslo. But now I'm not part of it since I moved to Sweden. Yeah, but from the international artists, I would definitely say Paolo and Ricardo. I love their knowledge.
They know what they do. They know what to talk about. So if you want to get answers, or if you want to hook up with someone that are well invested in what they do, and they they ask questions the
Yeah.
same way that we like to think of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But also for us, we are doing Kizomba Fusion. We have our own style and we have our dance background that which we want to use because it's so many years of hard work. But Kizomba part, we really want to learn about Kizomba, like not just basic things, but also as a culture, not just as a dancer, as a dance. So we still learn. We
You
still
always
do
do, of
take
course.
classes, but about Kizomba. No, it wouldn't be about urban kids because I don't know. You can't really compare.
Yeah,
Like
Kizomba
urban.
Kiss is a fusion. It's a yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, Kizomba
Let
is
me so
also
yeah,
fusion.
let me ask you this. For people who maybe new to Kizomba, can you define or can you put into words, what makes Kizomba different than Urban Kids and different from Kizomba Fusion or Fusion? I know it's probably I know it's
You like
probably
me?
a tough question.
It's not an easy one.
No, and it can be actually the answer can differ for different people in some extent at least. But so my definition would be that Kizomba is a dance that comes from a culture, an Angolan culture, not just Angola, Cape Verdean and other places as well. But when you take Urban Kiss, that has been a child that was born out of Kizomba when Kizomba came to Europe and you started implementing more lines, more like other type of structures that comes from street dance, comes from ballroom, and other type of highly influenced dances that is popular in Europe. And that in itself created Urban Kiss. I usually like to, maybe this is not the right way to do it, and I'm sorry all people if you might disagree, but for someone that is totally new and they're like, oh, but what is the difference between Kizomba and Urban Kiss visually? Then I usually go for, Cuban salsa? Yes, Kizomba. And then I go, do you know LA on one? Salsa? Like, yeah, that's Urban Kiss. So people who know the salsa scene, they're like, okay. Online, it's more linear. It's more like, some would even say that it's more technical. In some ways, it is, and that's kind of the differentiating factors. I would say that.
At the time, like the history, of course, it's different, but also what is similar can be that they both are fusion. Kizomba is a fusion of many other styles like zouk, like samba, but it is connected with a culture. So it comes from a culture, but Urban Kids is just international.
Yeah, it doesn't have a culture behind it.
I mean,
in that sense.
But it is also fusion of other styles.
And then if we would answer, what is the difference between then Urban Kiss and Kizomba Fusion?
That is a very good one.
So I think that, and correct me if you think that I'm wrong here, but even though Urban Kiss doesn't have a strong culture in a sense, like where does it doesn't have a cultural inheritance. Maybe it will happen. Maybe it will come. But Urban Kiss still has some defining factors of, okay, what makes this Urban Kiss? So if it differentiates a lot from that, all the lines and all the other techniques that you see a lot in Urban Kiss, and it tends to look more like, it's still a fusion, but it looks more like Kizomba, that is a circular type of dance. Then I think that they will eventually call it more Kizomba Fusion.
Let me ask you this. For people, there's a certain segment of people who I look at it all, however you want to define the dance, as just, the evolution of a dance. And there was definitely a certain segment of people who may be upset with the evolution of a dance. I would love to hear, what do you have to say to those people who are upset over that?
Oh, okay, yeah. Can I start with this one?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So we've seen this in hip hop. Like I told you before about, hip hop. Today's hip hop is just a mixture of everything. It's jazz. So we've been down this journey. The hip hop has done its baby boom. Breakdance did it back in the 80s as well, 70s, 80s. So the thing is, evolution will come whether you like it or not. And if you are one of the pioneers that sits on all this knowledge, you can be the herder that helps the sheeps walk in the right direction, or you can just sit back and then relax. And then when the sheep does what it does and walks one direction or another, then you complain afterwards. I'm simplifying this a lot, and I do get that. But if you want culture to spread, and it will spread with you or without you, then you can put on your cape and be that superhero to actually be the one to migrate it towards a future where you see more fitting. Sometimes not everybody does that, and sometimes people are angry. And I do get it. Like you get into the whole the what do you call it?
They call it a cultural appropriation, or
yeah. I mean, it gets to that
appreciation, right? It could be appreciation.
It gets to that part, and I do get it. Like some might say like, oh, but you're not even doing it, and they're explaining it in a way. I'm gonna make a stupefied example. It's like, oh, you watch a plane fly by, and now you think you can fly a plane. Like, okay, I get you on that one. So you have to dip your toes into the culture to really be able to grasp what this is about.
Yes.
But you can't have it both. You want to have the fame and you want it to spread and you want to travel around the world, showing what this is, if it's Kizomba, if it's whatever. But with something spreading, then eventually you will get to the part where there will be this fusion, there will be this change, they will adapt it to the certain cultures, and they will see something and they will make okay, I think this is it. And the whispering game, like I say fish and then kiss, but then in the end is something totally else. That's inevitable. So I think that it is a sensitive topic, and I do get that, but it is inevitable. So either you're a part of it and you try to fix it or steer it as good as possible and be a part of that change, or you're out. And if you're out, then coming back like 10 years later, I mean,
but it is also important to protect the history, protect the culture, to spread that. And I mean,
but you can be a part of it.
Yeah.
If you're not there, like for me, why do you do it like this? I don't know. Okay, well, we just do it like this then. So, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that this is on the peers or the pioneers, or this is the Angolans' fault or the Angolans in Portugal's fault. No, I mean, it is what it is in a lot of way. But I mean, together you have to take responsibility as a teacher and as a student.
I get what you're saying, because I guess essentially, we're talking about an art. And once you put that art out there, it's really out of your control what happens with it. People are going to do with it as they please. So I definitely understand that. There's only so much control you can have over it once it's out there.
And I mean, a lot of times, like, for example, the way I was introduced to Kizomba wasn't by someone teaching me. It was going to this club, and going to a club, you can't go there. And you see this a lot in if it's hip hop, if it's dance hall or any type of dance, you can be like, oh, you're doing it wrong. Wait. That person is expressing themselves in a club. You can't go up to that person and saying it's doing its own expression wrong. If that person were saying, oh, look at me now, I'm doing Kizomba, and they're doing something totally else, then you can say like, okay, that is faulty. You're doing it wrong. But I mean, the way that things like spreads, it's in a natural way. So again, then it becomes hard to,
Yeah. But also it can also become hard that if you are dancing in a certain way and you are teaching in a certain way, do you inspire people? There is a group of people that you inspire. So it's like, what is right and what is wrong?
Yeah,
Like, but I think it is the responsibility of the artists or the teachers
of
to
course.
know the culture, to know where things are coming from.
And I think the good thing, sorry, a quick one. We had this, I did a bit of tap dance back a couple of years ago, and their mentality is totally different. Because so we were at this camp with a lot of the high up tap dancers around the world, and everybody said the same thing: each one teach one, because this is a dying art. It doesn't matter what you know. If you know a little, share that knowledge. And I'm not saying there's some flaws in that mentality, but it's better than dying out. So,
But now I know nothing about tap dance. Maybe is it connected to a culture? Is it connected to
of
the
course, yeah,
history?
yeah, it's
Same way,
connected to a
you know,
lot of
like,
cultures. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So it's Kizomba has a
yeah,
rich history and
yeah. Yeah. Sorry, that was
yeah.
just.
No, I understand. I know, I get you. We went over a lot of things right there. Let me ask you this. You said something earlier, you know, how you originally learned Kizomba. I'm curious to hear from you. You know, we're talking about the evolution of a dance. You know, talk to me about how what you saw, what you learned, you know, at the club. You know, how was that different than what is being taught currently in an actual dance school? I think that as well as the evolution of a dance as well. You know, a street dances versus a professor who's dedicated their life, or you know, who's dedicated time to learning this. If you understand what I'm saying, street taught versus a school taught. If you understand my question.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's one of the hard things, because this is a culture you don't learn in a class or in a studio. It is a way of seeing things, a way of living, and I think that is something you have to experience. And you can argue that, oh, but so going into a club, you all of a sudden get the experience. Like, let's say it's the same thing for hip hop. Like, it's not like I go into a club in Sweden and then it's like, oh, this is hip hop back in New York from the 70s. Like, no, it's not the same thing. It's not the same life. So, but you get more of a sniff. You get something more than just like, and then of course a class, a studio is super good, because then you got dedicated time to ask questions, to get some key cornerstones or tools that you can later implement into, or are theoretical tools that you can later implement into a live environment, so to say. And I think that has been the key things when you are when you're in both worlds, or when you're out there and you see it. Okay, this is it. This is what it is. I mean, I was doing the class, but in this club, we're not just dancing. It's a social thing. It is actually a social thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can, even though you're not like in Kizomba, okay, I'm not in Angola now, but people are social everywhere. Maybe less so in Sweden. It's cold here, but all the same. So then you get the mentality, you get the point a lot better. So I think that has been a keystone in, and I think that and if you're teaching, and you know what you're teaching it and for what. And that's why, like for us, for example, we like to teach, have a not different methods, but our method is
Like learning that, or giving the tools so that the person can actually dance on the dance floor, not think about that, oh, I did this move, so move number 2, what else next, just to feel free basically, and to experiment, to enjoy.
just like any language. If I'm going to learn English or Spanish, like I can't come up to a person and be like, take up a book and like, ¿cómo estás? I mean, in the beginning, but that's not the main goal. You want to be fluid, and depending on what that person responds, you want to give back something differently depending on that response. And so, like learning a couple of a cute choreo or a few steps in a sequence if I'm locked to that sequence, then what good does that do me?
So real quick, let me see this. So speaking on that, so I've been to a handful of congresses, a handful of festivals, and in a lot of classes, that is the expected class type. The teacher comes in, teaches you a choreo, and you expect to try to memorize it or just video record it, and practice later. And you speak about teaching your students the tools instead of just a pattern. This may be an obvious answer, but I guess, what are your complaints against being taught a pattern? Does it makes you, it's just not, well, what are your complaints against it?
We don't like it. We don't say that it is a bad thing. You shouldn't do it. In certain times, it's actually can be useful just to let the person to think a little bit outside box, outside of
Or
the book.
implementing different methods, or
Yeah, because at the beginning you can have a lot of tools maybe, but you get lost. Like especially I lead as well, and I know how challenging that was at the beginning, because it was like, and I was already a like good follower, but I all of a sudden didn't know what's right, what's left, because everything was just chaotic. But showing a pattern or a move or combination can open some doors, that okay, you can do it this way. But it is, if it's taught only the moves, then it can be a problematic for certain people. Like you will leave the class thinking that okay, I have this move now. How can I?
Real quick, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, Denny. Let me change the question actually. So, same question kind of, but what can be an alternative at a festival where you have all these random people dropping in class, you have unknown skill levels? How can you give a class of 20, 30, 40, how can you give them a tool? What is the alternative to a pattern taught class? What is the better alternative, and how is it possible?
It's actually difficult to answer. Like we can only answer from our experience. When we, for example, teach, we put a music first. We let people dance just to see that where people are and how to connect with them. So that you can't plan it from A till Z and then go to the class. No, it will always be improvisations. It depends on the group.
So yeah. For me, I have a dog. So I like to think of it as, how do I teach my dog, and how does it differ to teach a dog comparing to a human? So for example, I'm out walking with my dog. It's dirt outside, it's raining, we get inside. He knows that don't go up on the couch, you're dirty. But there's no way of telling the dog to tell him, okay, your paws are dirty, don't go up on the couch. There's either no couch or couch is free at all time. So with a kid, it's different. You say a kid like, oh, don't walk in, you need to take off your shoes. But saying just that doesn't make sense. Take off your shoes, because otherwise the floor gets dirty. Okay, that's why I should take off my shoes. And this is the same thing for me when it comes, or for us when it comes to pattern. Like, do it this way. Do I always do it this way? Do I have to do it this way? But if you know why something, okay, if you know why something, like why do you as a leader usually start with your left foot? Like if you do not know, then you will always start on your left foot, and you'll be bound to that. You'll be crippled and chained to that rule. But is it a rule, or is this just a concept that you usually did to make it easier, beginning to teach something, or is there some other type of reason why that is? Like if you get these answers, it's like saying, like when you ask, okay, well, or you said it, like when how can you what did you say? Maybe it's not important. Maybe it's
it's definitely important.
It is important. Okay.
But I think as far as, I think, there are rules that do need to be, abided by, followed. It's kind of like a language, there's certain things that have to be followed so that we can understand each other, right? That's why we step on the left, because the follow knows to step back on her right. We have to, and that's why I can dance with you or someone else who has a completely different teacher. We follow the same rules, the rule set.
So in a way, the thing is, but also when you know the rules, you know why the rules came to exist, and you know when you can bend them and not to bend them. And then you can also understand that whether, okay, this is actually not a rule. This is just something that is commonly used for a purpose. So when you know all these things, and when you ask these questions, and since we ask a lot of these questions, we like to implement them into these tools that we give to people. And it can be, we give the tools, and then, okay, now let's implement this in a pattern. Okay, let's change the pattern. Let's do it reverse. And because you know this, that's not too hard. Oh, okay, yeah, no, now I see it. So in that sense, I think that you can definitely combine patterns and tools. But I just think doing patterns just for the sake of doing patterns, it's just like, and the good thing about patterns is that it's like, we call it, it's like chips. It tastes good, but it's not always that good for you, because if you only have the chips, you need something else. You need all the other food as well, like something.
But patterns tend to have like this unity feeling as well. Like when everybody is doing the same pattern during the class, it can be a fun experience, definitely.
And if you have like different levels in the class, I mean, yeah, the fall was not. That's a problem too with patterns. Like, oh, we're doing this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they're doing it. And the follower knows exactly the steps. So they don't even need to listen. They don't even need to follow. They just do the steps. So but then at the same time, there's a unity. So if you have different levels, I know it's frustrating to be a high level follower and then in a class, and maybe that was an unexperienced leader. So there is issues there, definitely.
Let me ask you this. Maybe a change of topic, subject, but real quick, first question. You would classify yourselves as Kizomba Fusion dancers, yes?
I'll say so.
Okay. So let me ask you, yes. So let me ask you this. What can somebody expect as a beginner taking your class? And what I mean is, a day one student, is the basics that you're teaching them Kizomba, and where does at what point does it differentiate and become Kizomba Fusion? And like, how do you teach Kizomba Fusion? I have so many questions, but answer that how you want.
That's a really good question. We have regular like weekly classes. Our beginner class is never Urban Kiz or Kizomba Fusion. It's always Kizomba. You have to learn Kizomba, and then we can fuse. We can show them like, okay, this is what we did. How can you interpret it and create your move from that? And one thing though, we are very lucky with our students because we have a really like high level street dancers as students. That's what we are trying to,
or a lot of them are, at least
most of them. Yeah, we are trying to get them into Kizomba culture, because I think or urban Kiz scene, or generally Kizomba scene, I think they can be the future, like next generation, and because they are amazing dancers already, but they need to know Kizomba in order they can do their fusion.
Yeah. So in us, the first term, because in our school it's based on terms, so like 12 weeks during spring, 12 weeks during fall. So at least one term is pure Kizomba. And then we will see, okay, how much did you learn during that? And can we then introduce you to Urban Kiz the next, or after a year, for example? And then from there we take, okay, now you know Kizomba. No, you'll have to take that with a grain of salt. And then now you know Urban Kiz. Now, okay, now it's about you. How can you, like, it's about expression. And if you're just following like a strict pattern, there's not much expression. So of course, then we start implementing that. But it is important and vital to know that you need to know what you're fusioning. You need to know what you're dealing with, the language, how is it built, what is it that makes Spanish Spanish, and then you can start putting in slangs and understanding how this slang came to be.
Mm. Yeah, that's actually something we believe in. That
This
I don't know if
is
that
just
answers your question.
no, it does. It does. Definitely does. I want to answer this question, but like I'm kind of scared of the answer. But would you say that Kizomba is maybe more restrictive in what is allowed when compared to Urban Kids or compared to Fusion?
No, I wouldn't say no. No, I would say definitely no. The thing here, and I think this is a big misconception, and some might disagree. I've been asking questions to a lot of the peers that actually brought Kizomba to Europe, so that I don't just, or that we don't just say this because we think so. No, I mean, we think so, but that can't be the grounding factor as when we go out and teach this, because then it needs to come from a source that is highly regarded. Okay, so there's a difference between what makes Kizomba Kizomba and what you're able to implement into Kizomba. So it is like, just take hip hop, for example. So you do this. Okay, some might call it padeboria, thump, 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 step, 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 step. Depending on how you do it, will make it hip hop
or ballet.
Exact
same move, but
so the same rules apply even in Kizomba. And also, if you have a flamenco step, if you have a tango step that you put into your Kizomba, does that mean that now all of a sudden you're not dancing Kizomba? Well, you're dancing Kizomba. You're just implementing a step. Just like any language borrows words here and there from other languages. So it doesn't make this not Spanish, but that word in per se is not Spanish. So, but it doesn't bereft you of the fact that what you're dancing right now as a whole is Kizomba. So that's why you can definitely implement other stuff in your Kizomba. But of course, if you implement too much, eventually it doesn't become just like with the Spanish. If I start talking too much other words that is not in the language, and it's like, you're not really talking Spanish.
I understand
how you speak, how you say it.
I think that is a healthy mentality.
I definitely understand
that. Was that the answer you were feeling?
I just want to listen. So whatever you got to say is perfect. Okay. So I was gonna ask you. I guess we'll just get onto this, man. You both have been dancing for quite a long time. I would love to hear from you both. What are some lessons that you've learned from dancing that you're able to translate to your everyday life?
Wow.
For me, I think that a lot of the way that I live, the way that I do a lot of stage work in general. I'm up on stage talking, giving inspirational seminars or whatever. And a lot of that is a lot of me as a stage performer and in life in general has been inspired by dancing. In dancing, you don't know what songs are being put on. You don't know always how the song will be, how it will, what's the structure of the song. But as a dancer, you're supposed to be able to dance to whatever song that are being put on and being able to adapt. So I think that has been one of the key things for me, that whatever song that's playing, learn to dance with it. And I think that is a good metaphor of life in general. You don't know what life is going to throw at you, but you roll with the punches.
I will have to think about that. That was a really good question.
I mean, okay, awesome. I'll give you a pass this one time, and no more.
just this once.
Thank you.
Let me ask you both this. I want to hear from both of you all on this one though. Denny, I want to ask you, in your eyes, in your opinion, what makes for a good follow, an exceptional follow? And I want the same question for you, Sabina. In your opinion, what makes for a good lead? What traits, what characteristics are you looking for in a good lead or follow?
So without it becoming boring, a boring answer, like the connection, because of course, but the connection. I think that I think just like in any conversation, because to me it is a conversation. If you have nothing to say, then it's not going to be a fun dance, a fun conversation, right? Albeit, and I understand that depending if the song is considered a topic, and if I'm talking to you and I'm well versed in like physics and you are not, then it won't be the most fun experience or the most fun conversation either. And again, so if we're dancing to a song that I like, that I know, or a type of genre of songs, and you do not, so of course, if that is in place, I think that if you have something to say and if you're willing to listen, I can have a most amazing dance even with a beginner, because I will feel, okay, what is your background? Okay, so you have belly dancing. Okay, let's use that. Let's talk about that when dancing. No matter what the music is, we'll make this work. I've been dancing for far too long to not be able to make that work. That will fix it. So I think that if you are willing to share, have something to say, and if you're, of course, are willing to listen, because it is a couple dance. If you're just living your own life, then it's like, okay, you do you, I'll be back. See you. So in that sense, I think that if those are the only two things for me that I really need. Again, if you are super good and got that, but that's not needed.
I would actually agree. First of all, like whatever Denny said, that listening, and having something to say, but also diversity. I would say that being able to adapt to different music, and also, I don't mean that one person needs to be diverse, like needs to be able to adapt to like all these different music styles, but I mean that if he adapts to one style and he's good in what he's doing, that can be fun to dance with. But I want to have different partners. Like, let's say I know that this person is a good Kizomba dancer. I want to dance Kizomba with him. I know that the other person is a super technical urban kiss dancer, spins, fast moves. I love that. I can't say that I don't. I want to dance with him. Or if I know that this person is more experimental, they don't live by any rules, like they just want to have fun, that person can be also a really good lead. So it's really not just one category that I would put them in, but
yeah, it's just like a conversation there as well. But I will say, so not to make it like too boring as well, when I say that it's important that if you have something to say, but also that you are saying it, because a lot of people have something to say, but they're like, no, I'm not going to take space. But then, like, I wouldn't know. Like, so I think that, yeah, I mean, take space.
But listening is definitely something that I would really appreciate from a leader and also from a follower when I'm leading, for example.
I usually use the example of like when you're entering a conversation, two people are having a conversation, and those two people can be that person and the music, for example. So if I'm entering that conversation, the first thing you do is, okay, what are you talking about? Coffee? Oh, coffee beans. I don't like coffee so much, but I like tea. And then, but you don't walk into a conversation like, yeah, by the way, I don't know what you're talking about, but tea is great. I love tea. Like, okay, dude, where did you come from? Like, so I think that is a way of, depending on how you approach the conversation, of course.
I understand that. I definitely do. Let me ask you this. I know you both teach. What are some common mistakes that you see in class that you wish you could resolve, wish you could rectify for everyone?
People not daring to do mistakes.
That's one. Yeah. Two, actually, well, I think, and this is on the followers side.
I have one more.
Just follow. Just goddamn follow. Skip. But this has to do with the pattern or the choreography. You're just so you're there. You're just stepping a choreography. No, you need to be able to. If the leader is doing a mistake, then roll with those punches. Do the mistake with that person.
Yeah. Now, when we say that, or Denny says that, just follow. Of course, we don't mean that following is just following. No, following is difficult, and there are like a lot of things. And there are a lot of things that you need to follow, but not to overthink, which is difficult, of course, especially if you're a beginner. But another thing that I would love to fix is student teaching a student, telling that no, you do it wrong. Do it. You have to do it right.
Yeah, with teaching comes responsibility. Be careful of there's a Buddhist saying that only teach someone you know, and the only person you know is yourself. I will take that with a grain of salt, because that's not what we're doing. We're teaching other people. So, but at least know why and how before you start giving corrections. You can share your opinion, and I thought this was what you wanted to do. This is what I tried to do. Of course. But if you're saying you're doing it wrong, then you need to be sure of now you're step lightly.
No, I definitely understand that. I definitely do. Final question for you all. I want to hear from both of you all. Answer this question for me. Can you give me one tip, one piece of advice that can make anyone a better dancer immediately?
Okay. I think that, to be honest, immediately.
Take classes.
Okay. And a lot of it, to be honest, has to do with psychology, and be humble is one. I think that it feels boring to say be humble, don't grumble. Like that feels like a boring phrase. You need to let's see what we can conjure up here.
Having fun is important.
You know what? Okay, I got one. Okay, so, but this is more related to how to practice, in a sense, like because I think progress is a big key, like a cornerstone to whether you will develop faster. And when it comes to dancing, it is kind of hard to know whether you are progressing or not. So usually I tell my students to when you're practicing, you need to set up a structure for your practice. Okay, what is the goal or the mission for this practice? I will not say always I follow by my own rules here, but it is a good way of doing it, and I do it too. So when you go to the gym, it's very clear. I'm gonna do 10 push-ups. If you do 8, okay, then you know my goal and what I'm supposed to do, and then you keep on doing it. Or a deadlift. So can I do 100 kilo? I'm talking European kilogram. Sorry, 100 kilogram. Boom, bam. Okay, I made it. Check. I got better. So, but when you're doing dancing, it's not like, the problem with dancing is that you have to feel like dancing, because it's an expression. It's not like, I'll just go to the gym real quick you don't have to feel like going to the gym. Go to the gym and do the workout. Go out and take a run. But in dancing, you put a lot of emotion into it. Try sometimes when you're not feeling inspired to take away some emotions and just, okay, I'm not feeling like it. Okay, what can I do now to be able to improve? I do like an exercise that can actually benefit my dancing without actually having to feel like I really want to dance, like early in the morning on a Sunday. Maybe I don't really want to dance. But if you put in the effort and make an exercise that is not really about wanting to or not as much.
You mean dance exercise?
Yeah, dance exercise, or an exercise that will actually improve your dancing. Just like golfing, like you would think, oh, you just swing. Oh, no. You'll be amazed of how much techniques and workout will affect your golfing. So I think that can definitely, if you want to improve a lot, because then all of a sudden you're not always on a dance floor, but you're always somewhere, and there's always something you can implement. It can be a workout, it can be a mental exercise, it can be like just be open-minded. An old teacher of mine said, life is a class, so pay attention. So in everything that is in that class, because that can influence you in your expression and what you have to say. Think about who you are in general. That's the next one. Now you have two.
and Sabina, do you have one?
Not to be afraid, basically making mistakes, like just trying, moving. You would be impressed to see the result just by moving, like not thinking too much.
Yeah, because if you think about it as a conversation, to be honest, if you're too afraid to speak your mind or say something or ask the question, then you'll never learn. I mean, it's the same in dancing. So I think that is actually one of the better ones. Don't be afraid. And I mean, if you step on someone's toe or whatever, you say you're sorry, but you don't have to like keep on saying sorry, because then eventually you don't want to. It's like, okay, just relax. You don't have to. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm not worthy. I'm so sorry. Just have fun. Let's just talk. So yeah, definitely. Don't be too afraid to make mistakes.
Powerful, definitely. I definitely agree with that. At this point, I want to thank you both so much, Denny and Sabina, for taking time much to talk to me. I really appreciate it. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation.
Same, definitely.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
of course. Real quick, I guess I got a couple more questions. Do you have any events, any activities, anything you want to plug, anything you want to share?
We do. We are putting together an event, the Garage Case. Now, the thing is, we are not organizers, like this big organizer, and that's not our goal either.
Well, at least not in the Kizomba
scene. Yeah. So this is just an event made by artists for everyone, just to come and enjoy.
By dancers for dancers.
Yeah, exactly. And we did have first edition last year due to Corona. It was a small event, but now we might be biased by saying that it was a really amazing event, but it was really cozy. It was small. And
it was because one of the things is that usually when you go out, people forget to have fun. Like they're like, I have to lead, I have to give, I have to no. Have fun. Yeah. So this event is more about the social party.
Yeah. So it's not there are no classes or anything. It's just socials and parties, but we are trying to bring this club atmosphere there. Like even one of my dance friends who was at the event last time, he came and kissed me, gave me a kiss on my cheek and said that this is amazing. This is the event that I have danced least, but I have had the most fun. So I think that was a great compliment. But we welcome everybody. Like they can find the events page on Instagram or on Facebook.
The Garage Kiss.
The Garage Kiss, it's called. Yeah.
And so tell me, how can people reach out to you? How can they get in contact with you?
They can send us message on social media.
Denny and Sabina.
Denny.Sabina.
Denny.Sabina, sorry.
Facebook, Instagram. If
we have a website.
We have a website which we need to update.
But it's there if you want to join, if you want to jump on that train. So DennySabina.com. So there you can always get to us.
Or email.
Mail at DennySabina.com. Keep it simple. It's a mail.
I'll make sure I put all your links in the description. So
thank you. Yeah.
I got you. Like I said, I want to thank you all so much, man. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I can tell, how passionate, how truly, how much you enjoy dancing and everything. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I have one question for you.
Okay.
Do you dance Kizomba?
Oh, definitely.
You did.
Definitely. Kizomba. Yeah. I think I have like a very similar path to you, Sabina. Started with salsa when I was like around 2021. I turned 30. I turned 31 this year. But yeah, got started in salsa, transitioned in bachata, then got into Kizomba, then got into a little bit of Brazilian zouk. But Kizomba is my favorite. I love it. I love Kizomba. Yeah, that's definitely
Nice.
So yeah. Big fan. So I really appreciate. I love your videos. I love what you're doing. So I had to have you on the show. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
we really appreciate it.
Yeah, it means a lot.
Hey, thank you so much. I think this will do it for this episode of the Two Left Feet podcast. Thank you so much, Denny and Sabina. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Signing out. Thank you.
Have a lovely Sunday.
You as well. Take it easy.